from the LA Times. Interesting case. Well, not really interesting at all, but we're going to talk about it. Fast and Furious star Tyrese Gibson is taking Home Depot to court, accusing the home improvement chain of discrimination and racial profiling. So, in a lawsuit, here's the case. Okay, he was discriminated against and racially profiled at a Home Depot. And the moment you hear that, you might think, like, at a Home Depot? Discrimination at a Home Depot. That usually, I mean, any Home Depot I've been to, pretty diverse. So just not exactly where you would expect to encounter that kind of thing. And it gets even more surprising when you realize that the other two people who are discriminated against, allegedly, one of them's name is Eric Mora, and the other one is Manuel Hernandez. So we're supposed to believe that Hispanic people are being discriminated against at Home Depot, which is also a little bit surprising. So the core of the lawsuit is a February 11th incident in which Home Depot clerks allegedly purposely interfered with and refused to process a transaction by Gibson, Mora, and Hernandez based on their skin color and the craftsman's national origin. Okay, so that's what they're saying. Gibson went in with these two Mexican guys, and he tried to buy some stuff. And apparently, based on what I'm reading so far, he was told by the store clerk, he was told by the cashier, oh, we can't process this. Why can't you process it? Because you're black. Because you're black and they're Mexican. Get the hell out. We don't serve your kind here at Home Depot. That happens at Home Depot all the time. Very common occurrence. So is that what happened here? We'll keep reading. According to legal documents, Gibson and his two associates were purchasing items for a home improvement project, but the checkout process took longer due to a glitch in the system. While an unidentified employee was rescanning the items, fans began to notice Gibson, who stepped out of the store to avoid creating disturbance. The lawsuit says that Gibson informed the employee that Mora and Hernandez would complete the purchase with his credit card. The cashier acknowledged Gibson and said he understood. The lawsuit says Gibson asked the cashier if the cashier needed anything further from him to complete the transaction. The cashier said no, and that Gibson could leave. After Gibson left, the cashier refused to complete the transaction with Mora and Hernandez, despite Gibson again authorizing the transaction via FaceTime video calls, the document says. Gibson returned to the store and completed the transaction only after heated discussions with the cashier. The actor also asked to speak to the store's manager, who allegedly refused to speak with Gibson in person. The lawsuit says, quote, "This is a clear and deplorable instance of discriminatory mistreatment and consumer racial profiling. The treatment of Gibson, Mora, and Hernandez by the Home Depot was humiliating and demeaning." So that's it. That's what happened. He was trying to buy something. He wanted to step out of the store and still have the thing processed. And the cashier originally, according to him, the cashier originally said, yeah, you can do that. But then he left, and the cashier said, actually, I can't process it unless he's here. And so it was kind of inconvenient. And that's it. That's all that happened. And from that, they're extrapolating that Home Depot is discriminating against blacks and Mexicans. Which, by the way, like, if Home Depot were to refuse to provide service to Hispanic people, they would go out of business in 45 minutes. They wouldn't be able to. It's like saying that Cinnabon is discriminating against obese people. Like that's most of your clientele. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. But here's what we see here. This is a good example of the racism framework that I'm always talking about, where if you have the left's racism framework and you're black or you're in an approved victim group, then every mild inconvenience will be understood based on it. So it's more of a lens, I suppose, than a framework. Framework makes it sound more intellectual than it really is. It's just a lens. And this is the lens through which they view the world. And the lens says that you're black, so you're a victim. Everyone automatically is racist against you because you're black. And so therefore, it's just anything that happens to you that you don't like is because of racism. Nobody needs to say anything that indicates it or anything like that. It's just, it happened to you, you don't like it, you're black, therefore it is racist. And that is as far as it goes. That is as complex as the equation gets. If you're looking through the racism lens. Which also makes it, the more that you keep these glasses on, the more that you look at the world through this lens, It's like the more detached from reality you become, where you lose any grip on just like human nature and understanding how the world works. Because those of us who are not wearing those lenses, we hear a story like this and we think like, yeah, that's how it goes at these places. You go in and you're told one thing by one customer service guy, and then it doesn't work, and then you want to talk to a manager, and the manager is like, this is how it goes. Or if you go to one of these places and there's like a slight wrinkle, there's a slight complication, you want to do something that's like a little bit outside of the norm, and in this case, he wants to process the transaction while he walks outside. It's just like a slight wrinkle, and that breaks down the whole system. And mostly because you're dealing with a cashier who's like a 17-year-old kid who has no idea what's going on and doesn't care, and no one is really invested in what they're doing. Nobody actually cares about you as a customer, but that's the case for all of us. This is the boat we're all in. And if you don't have the racism lenses on, then you just understand that, okay, yeah, that's life. That's how it works at these places. It's like we all experience that. But of course, if you see it that way, then you can't make your, what is he going for, $1 million? Tyrese Gibson, he's a star of Fast and Furious, which a franchise that somehow has made $75 trillion at the box office. He needs another $1 million from Home Depot to assuage his deep emotional suffering, of course. If you'd like to see what else I have to say, you can access my full show by going to dailywire.com or by going to the Matt Walsh Show Twitter page. Hope to see you there. Godspeed.